Emma was a single mother who lived in a small town. She was not rich or famous, but she was strong and kind. Emma had a little boy named Noah, who was 6 years old. Noah was the most important person in Emma's life. She worked hard every day to make sure he had everything he needed: a warm home, good food, and love. Emma loved Noah more than anything. Before Noah was born, Emma had a different life. She was once engaged to a man named Ryan. Ryan was charming and handsome, and Emma thought he was the one she would spend her life with. They were young and in love, dreaming about their future. But when Emma found out she was pregnant, Ryan's feelings changed. Instead of being happy, he became distant and afraid. He told Emma that he was not ready to be a father and that their engagement was over. Emma was heartbroken. She had expected Ryan to support her, but he left her to face the challenges alone. It was difficult for Emma to raise a child by herself. Many days, she felt tired and worried, but she never gave up. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes more, to make sure Noah never missed out on what he needed. She wanted to show Noah that life might be hard, but love and courage could make it better. Even though Ryan had left, Emma never asked him for money or help. She was proud and wanted to do everything by herself. Emma believed in her strength and in the power of a mother's love. She taught Noah important lessons about kindness, honesty, and respect. She wanted him to grow up strong and confident, knowing he was loved. Emma's life was simple, but full. She didn't have many friends because she was busy taking care of Noah and working, but the people who knew her respected her for her hard work and dedication. Emma dreamed of a better future for herself and her son, but she never forgot where she came from or the pain she had felt. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. Emma received a wedding invitation. It was from Ryan. He was getting married to a woman named Julia, who was from a wealthy family. The invitation shocked Emma. She didn't expect to hear from him or to be invited to his wedding. The letter said that Julia's mother wanted Emma to come, hoping she would keep things peaceful during the celebration. Emma felt many emotions. She was nervous and unsure if she should go. Part of her wanted to ignore the invitation and stay away, but another part of her thought that maybe, just maybe, attending the wedding could help her find closure. Maybe it would help her move on from the past and finally feel peace. After thinking for a long time, Emma decided to go. She wanted to be brave for Noah and herself. She told Noah she had to attend a special event but promised she would be back soon. She found a simple dress to wear because she didn't want to draw attention or make anyone uncomfortable. Emma was nervous as she prepared to enter a world very different from her own. The day of the wedding arrived and Emma felt like a small fish in a big ocean. The venue was a beautiful, grand place filled with expensive decorations and well-dressed people. Emma walked carefully, feeling out of place among the luxury and glitter. She knew this was Ryan's new life, a world far from her own. Emma did not want to cause trouble or be noticed. She planned to stay quiet and watch from a distance. She hoped to see Ryan one last time and maybe find the strength to say goodbye to the past. As she stood quietly among the guests, she felt many eyes on her. Some people whispered, recognizing her as Ryan's ex-fiancé and the mother of his child. The whispers made Emma uncomfortable, but she held her head high. She told herself she had nothing to be ashamed of. She was there because she was proud of her journey, no matter how hard it had been. Noah was her world, and she had done everything for him. As the ceremony began, Emma hoped everything would go smoothly. But Julia, the bride, noticed Emma immediately. Her expression changed from polite to cold. Emma could feel the tension growing. The mood shifted in the room, and soon an usher approached Emma and asked her to leave. The request was polite but firm. Emma felt her heart sink. She tried to explain quietly that she meant no harm and was invited, but the situation quickly grew worse. Ryan came toward her with a stern look and accused her of trying to create drama at his wedding. The guests started to watch, some with surprise, others with judgment. Emma's cheeks burned with shame. She didn't want a scene, but she also didn't want to run away. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. She was tired of feeling weak. Emma stood tall even as security gently but firmly escorted her out. Outside, the cold air hit Emma's face, and she felt a mixture of sadness and relief. She thought maybe this was the end of the story she had hoped to close. Just then, from the crowd, a voice spoke loudly and clearly. "She's staying. With me." Emma turned to see a man in a sharp suit walking toward her. The crowd fell silent, surprised by his calm but confident presence. The man introduced himself as Ethan Carter. He was a successful businessman, known for helping people quietly without asking for attention. Ethan said he had personally invited Emma to the wedding and would not allow anyone to treat her badly. His words shocked everyone, including Emma. She had never met Ethan before, but he seemed to know her story. He gently offered her a glass of water and asked if she was all right. Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: comfort. Ethan listened without judging, and for the first time, Emma could share her journey without fear. He told her he had helped many single mothers through his foundation and remembered a letter from one who had inspired him greatly. Emma and Ethan talked quietly, and she felt hope rising inside her. For years she had been invisible, struggling alone. But now, someone saw her courage and wanted to help, not because she was weak, but because she was strong. As Emma looked at Ethan, she realized that her life was changing in ways she never imagined. The past was painful, but maybe, just maybe, the future held new possibilities. The man's voice was calm but strong, and it immediately made everyone pause. Rachel looked up, unsure of who he was, but something about him felt important. He didn't yell, he didn't seem angry, but he looked directly at the staff and said, "Again, what's going on here?" The staff member stepped back, clearly nervous. He stammered, "Sir, she doesn't have an invitation. We were asked to escort her out quietly." The man turned to Rachel. His eyes were kind but serious. "Miss, is this true? Did you come here without an invitation?" Rachel stood straight, still holding Liam in her arms. Her voice was soft but honest. "Yes, sir, I didn't come to cause any trouble. I just wanted to see the wedding, that's all." Liam looked up at the man, his small hand gripping Rachel's shoulder tightly. The man noticed the child and his expression softened. "Did she make a scene?" he asked the staff. "No, sir," the staff replied. "She was standing quietly in the back." The man nodded slowly, then looked around at the crowd who were all watching now. "Then why is she being treated like this?" he asked, more to the guests than to anyone in particular. "What harm has she done by being here?" No one answered. The silence grew heavier, especially when Daniel's mother stepped forward again. She looked uncomfortable now, as if she hadn't expected someone to stand up for Rachel. "She doesn't belong here," she said firmly. "This is a private event." The man turned to her. "Mrs. Kent, with all due respect, there's a difference between protecting your event and humiliating a woman in front of her child." Rachel's eyes widened. She didn't know this man, but he knew who Daniel's mother was, and by the way he spoke, he was clearly someone important. Then a whisper ran through the crowd. "It's Charles Bennett," someone said. Rachel had heard that name before. Charles Bennett was a well-known businessman. He owned several companies, gave to many charities, and was often called the Quiet Millionaire in news articles. He didn't enjoy being in the spotlight, but people respected him deeply. Daniel's mother tried to smile. "Mr. Bennett, I assure you there's no problem. We were just making sure everything stays appropriate." He raised an eyebrow. "Appropriate? Is it appropriate to embarrass a guest who has done nothing wrong? To frighten a child who doesn't understand why his mother is being treated like a criminal?" Rachel felt a lump form in her throat. No one had defended her like this in a long time. She was so used to being ignored or brushed aside that she didn't know how to react. "I think she deserves to stay," Charles said gently. Then he turned to Rachel. "Would you like to sit somewhere more comfortable?" Rachel hesitated. "I don't want to disturb the wedding." "You haven't," he replied. "In fact, I think your presence has reminded some people what true dignity looks like." He offered his arm. Rachel looked at Liam, then back at Mr. Bennet, and slowly nodded. He guided them to a quieter section near the garden. It wasn't inside the main hall, but they could still see the ceremony from there. A soft breeze moved through the flowers and birds chirped in the background. It felt peaceful. Mr. Bennet brought them a bottle of water and a small plate of snacks for Liam. "You don't have to stay long," he said kindly. "But you shouldn't be sent away like that. Not after everything you've been through." Rachel blinked. "You know about me?" He nodded. "Not everything, but enough. Daniel and I worked together a few years ago. I remember when he was engaged. I remember when he walked away." Rachel looked down, feeling a mix of embarrassment and sadness. "I didn't come here to cause any drama. I wanted to see him one last time, not to talk, just to see, so I could finally let go." Mr. Bennet looked thoughtful. "Letting go isn't easy, especially when you've been treated unfairly. But I think you've already shown more grace than most people here today." They sat quietly for a while. Liam happily munched on his snacks, unaware of the weight of the moment. "I've watched Daniel for years," Mr. Bennet continued. "He's smart, no doubt. But sometimes smart people forget to be kind. And sometimes they surround themselves with others who never tell them when they're wrong." Rachel smiled sadly. "I used to think he was the kindest person I'd ever met." "People change," Mr. Bennet said softly. "But your strength hasn't. That's clear to anyone who looks at you." Rachel didn't know what to say. She was used to compliments like, "You're strong," or "You're brave," being thrown around without meaning. But from Mr. Bennet, it felt real, like he truly saw her. As the wedding music started, Rachel stood and watched from a distance. Daniel walked down the aisle, standing proudly at the altar. His bride entered moments later, looking like someone from a magazine cover. It was beautiful. Perfect. Everything Rachel had once dreamed of. But standing there, with Liam holding her hand and Mr. Bennet quietly at her side, she realized something. She no longer wanted to be a part of that world. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because it no longer fit who she had become. She had built a life from scratch. She had faced heartbreak, loneliness, and endless challenges, but she had never stopped loving her son. Never stopped trying. And that was something money couldn't buy. When the ceremony ended, Rachel turned to Mr. Bennet. "Thank you for today, for treating me like a person." "You are more than a person," he replied. "You're a story of courage, and I hope it's only the beginning." Rachel smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew she had taken the first step toward something new. She picked up Liam, gave him a kiss on the cheek, and whispered, "Let's go. Home, baby?" As they walked away from the fancy resort, Rachel didn't look back, but Mr. Bennet did. And in his eyes, Rachel wasn't just a guest who came to a wedding uninvited. She was a woman who reminded everyone that some things, like love, strength, and dignity, could never be taken away. A few days had passed since the wedding. Rachel still couldn't believe what had happened. She kept replaying it in her mind, the moment she had been asked to leave, the shame she felt in front of so many people. And then, just when it felt like things couldn't get worse, the unexpected kindness from Mr. Charles Bennet. Rachel had not seen him again after that day, but his words had stayed with her. He hadn't just helped her in a difficult moment, he had reminded her that she still mattered. That simple kindness had touched her deeply. One afternoon, while Rachel was folding laundry, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated but answered politely. "Hello? Ms. Carter?" a warm voice asked. "This is Charles Bennet." Rachel nearly dropped the phone. She quickly sat down on the edge of the bed. "Oh, hello, Mr. Bennet. I wasn't expecting your call." "I hope it's not a bad time," he said kindly. "No, not at all. I've been thinking about our talk," he said, "and I would like to meet with you again, if you're open to it." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. "May I ask why?" "I'd like to hear more of your story," he said, "and maybe offer you something that could help you move forward." She didn't know what that meant. but his voice was sincere. She agreed to meet the next day at a quiet cafe he often visited. When Rachel arrived, she wore her best shirt and jeans. She didn't have fancy clothes, but she made sure to look neat and respectful. She left Liam with her kind neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, who adored him like a grandson. Mr. Bennett was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table by the window. He stood up when he saw her and greeted her with a gentle smile. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for inviting me." They ordered tea and some pastries. At first, the conversation was light, about the weather, the cafe's quiet charm, and Liam's favorite cartoon. But soon, Mr. Bennett leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. "Rachel, may I ask, something personal?" She nodded. "What happened after Daniel left you?" Rachel looked down for a moment, then slowly began to speak. She told him about the pregnancy, about how Daniel disappeared, and how his family cut her off. She shared how she worked 2 jobs, lived in a tiny apartment, and did everything she could to make sure Liam felt loved and safe. She didn't complain. She didn't cry. She just spoke honestly, simply, like someone who had lived through it, and come out stronger. Mr. Bennett listened quietly, not interrupting once. When she finished, he took a deep breath. "You've been through so much," he said softly, "but you still carry yourself with grace." Rachel smiled faintly. "I didn't have a choice. I had a little boy counting on me." "And you've done an incredible job," he said. "But I think you deserve more than just survival. I think you deserve a fresh start." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I run a few businesses," he explained, "and one of them is a non-profit that helps women like you, women who've been left behind but never gave up. We provide training, jobs, and support." Rachel's eyes widened. "I didn't know something like that existed." "It does," he said with a smile. "And I'd like to offer you a position, something simple to start, a coordinator's role. You'll be trained and supported every step of the way, and there's also a scholarship for Liam. It would cover his school fees for the next few years." Rachel was speechless. For a long moment, she couldn't find the words. She had spent so many years just trying to stay afloat that the idea of something better almost felt like a dream. "Why would you do this for me?" she finally asked. "Because I believe in second chances," he replied, "and because you've already proven you're worth investing in." Rachel blinked back tears. She had always told herself not to expect help, but now someone was offering her a lifeline, not out of pity but out of genuine respect. "I don't want charity," she said quietly. "It's not charity," Mr. Bennett said. "It's an opportunity. And I know you'll make the most of it." She nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll do it." And just like that, Rachel's life began to change. Her first few days at the organization were filled with learning. She was nervous, of course. Everything felt new and unfamiliar. But the team was kind and welcoming. They showed her how to manage tasks, use new software, and organize events. Rachel listened carefully, took notes, and asked questions when she didn't understand. She stayed late when needed and brought the same determination she had always carried with her. Every morning, she dropped Liam off at a nearby daycare that Mr. Bennett's foundation helped fund. The staff there adored Liam, and he made friends quickly. For the first time, Rachel felt like she didn't have to worry about what could go wrong every second of the day. Weeks passed, then months. And little by little, Rachel began to shine. She became known for her thoughtful approach to problem solving and her calm nature during busy moments. Clients respected her and co-workers admired her. One day, her manager told her, "Rachel, you have something special. You connect with people. You understand their pain and help them believe in themselves. That's not something we can teach." Rachel smiled, still not fully believing how far she'd come. At night, when she put Liam to bed, she would sit by the window with a cup of tea and think about everything, about how close she had come to giving up hope, about how a simple moment, a voice at a wedding, had opened a door she didn't even know existed. Mr. Bennett stayed in touch, checking in on her progress, always encouraging her. But he never made her feel small. He treated her like an equal, someone whose strength deserved recognition. One afternoon, Rachel was invited to attend a meeting with a group of board members for the organization. She didn't know why until they told her she had been chosen to speak at an upcoming event. "We want people to hear your story," one of them said. "It's powerful, and it will give others hope." Rachel felt nervous, but she agreed. Not because she wanted attention, but because she knew what it meant to feel invisible. If her voice could help someone else find the courage to keep going, she wanted to use it. She practiced her speech every night after Liam fell asleep. She spoke from her heart, remembering every step of her journey, not just the pain, but the strength, the growth, and the unexpected kindness that changed everything. The event was just weeks away, and although Rachel didn't know what the future held, she finally believed that maybe, just maybe, the best chapters of her life were still ahead. The day of the event arrived faster than Rachel had expected. It was a warm Saturday morning, and the large community hall where the event was held was already filled with guests. There were women from all backgrounds, business leaders, teachers, social workers, and even students who had come to listen and learn. The event was called Voices of Strength, and it was meant to highlight people who had turned their struggles into success. Rachel stood behind the stage, holding a small card with her speech written on it. Her hands were slightly shaking, not because she wasn't ready, but because this was something she had never done before. Just a year ago, she was quietly working long hours, raising Liam alone, and avoiding attention. Now she was about to speak to a room full of people. She took a deep breath, then another. Her heart was beating fast, but she reminded herself why she was doing this. Not to impress anyone, but to give hope. To show that even when life gets hard, it's still possible to rise again. Mr. Bennett walked over to her just before she stepped on stage. "You'll do great," he said with a calm smile. "Just speak from your heart. That's all anyone needs to hear." Rachel nodded. His presence gave her comfort. He wasn't just a supporter anymore. He had become a quiet guide in her journey. When the host announced her name, polite applause followed. Rachel walked to the podium slowly, careful not to trip, and looked out at the faces before her. Some were smiling, others serious, but all were listening. She began with a small smile. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Carter. A year ago, I never imagined standing here, speaking to all of you. Back then, I didn't think my story mattered. But someone reminded me that it does, and today I want to share it with you." The room was silent as she told her story. She spoke about falling in love, about being left behind, about raising a child alone. But she didn't speak with bitterness. Instead, her words were filled with honesty and quiet strength. "I wasn't always strong," she said. "I had nights where I cried myself to sleep. I had days where I didn't know how I'd afford milk or bus fare. But I never gave up, because I had someone who depended on me, and more than that, I wanted to prove to myself that I could build something better." As Rachel continued, she noticed a few people wiping their eyes. Others leaned forward, fully engaged. She talked about meeting Mr. Bennett, about being given a job, and about finding her self-worth again. "It wasn't just a job," she said. "It was a chance to remember who I was, a chance to believe again." When she finished her speech, the room burst into applause. Some people even stood up. Rachel felt overwhelmed but grateful. She had shared her truth, and people had received it with warmth. After the event, many guests came to speak with her. Some told her how inspiring her story was. Others shared their own journeys. A few women even asked how they could apply to the same program that had helped her. Later, Mr. Bennett found her near the refreshment table. "That was incredible," he said. "You've touched so many lives today." Rachel smiled. "I was so nervous." "You didn't look it," he replied kindly. "You looked like someone who's ready for more." That night, Rachel walked home feeling proud. Liam was already asleep at Mrs. Alvarez's apartment, and she stopped to thank her before heading upstairs. When she got to her room, she sat down by the window like she always did. But this time, something felt different. She felt lighter, freer, as if a heavy door inside her had finally opened. The next few weeks brought even more surprises. One of the women who had attended the event was a director at a community development agency. She had been deeply moved by Rachel's story and wanted to offer her a higher position, one where she could help design and lead programs for other single mothers. Rachel was shocked. Me? Lead programs? The woman nodded. Yes, you've lived the journey. You understand it better than anyone. You don't just talk, you've walked the road, and that makes you the perfect person to lead others. It was a big step, but Rachel accepted. She began working closely with new team members, helping to build workshops, training programs, and childcare support systems. She visited schools, hosted small meetings with mothers in need, and even started a blog to share resources and tips. Each day felt full of meaning. Liam continued to grow and shine too. He was now 5 years old, full of energy and curiosity. Every evening he would run into her arms and say, "Mommy, guess what I did today?" He talked about painting, building blocks, singing songs, and Rachel listened to every word. They still lived in the same small apartment, but it no longer felt like a struggle. It felt like a home, a place built with patience and love. One Saturday, Rachel and Liam were at the park when Mr. Bennett appeared with a small box. Liam ran up to him cheerfully. "Uncle Charles," Mr. Bennett laughed gently. "Hey, buddy." Rachel stood up with a smile. "This is a surprise." "I brought something," he said, handing her the box. "Just something I thought you might need." She opened it slowly. Inside was a notebook with a soft leather cover. On the front, in gold letters, were the words, "Your next chapter." Rachel was touched. "It's beautiful." "I think you've already written the hardest chapters," he said. "Now it's time to write the ones you choose." Rachel looked at him quietly. Over time, their connection had deepened. He had never tried to impress her. He had never forced anything, but he had shown up with respect, patience, and kindness. She knew he cared, and she cared too. That evening, while Liam played with his toys, Rachel opened the notebook. On the first page, she wrote, "I was once broken, but I did not stay broken. I was once left behind, but I found a new path. I am not just surviving anymore. I'm building, growing, believing, and I know this is only the beginning." She closed the book and smiled, because this time, she wasn't writing a story of heartbreak. She was writing a story of hope, and it was hers. Months had passed since Rachel gave her first speech at the Voices of Strength event. Life had taken a different turn, one filled with peace, growth, and hope. Her days no longer began with anxiety but with purpose. She was no longer just surviving. She was living a life filled with meaning, one step at a time. Her new job at the community development agency was going well. She had quickly gained trust from her coworkers and superiors. Rachel was known for her calm presence, her gentle voice, and her ability to listen with a kind heart. People came to her not just for help, but for guidance. She now managed several programs, most of them created to support single mothers, struggling families, and young women who had lost direction in life. Rachel knew what they were going through. She had walked in their shoes. That's what made her special. She wasn't just a manager behind a desk. She was someone who understood from the inside. One day, a young woman named Tara came into Rachel's office. She looked tired and unsure. Rachel smiled warmly and offered her a chair. "I heard about you," Tara said softly. "Someone told me you used to be like me, that you were on your own too." Rachel nodded, listening closely. Tara continued, "I have a baby girl, her name is Mia. Her father left before she was born. I live in a small room, I don't have a job, and I don't know what to do." Rachel reached across the desk and gently held Tara's hand. "I know exactly how that feels. And I want you to know, this doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning." Tears rolled down Tara's cheeks, not from pain, but from the small spark of hope Rachel's words gave her. That day, Rachel helped her enroll in a job training program and find daycare support. A few weeks later, Tara returned with a smile on her face, dressed neatly with confidence in her eyes. "I had my first interview," she said proudly, "and I got the job." Rachel hugged her. "I'm proud of you." Moments like that filled Rachel's heart. She had once needed someone to believe in her, and now she was that person for others. Meanwhile, Liam was growing fast. He had just started first grade, and his teacher had already told Rachel how bright and curious he was. He loved reading, books about space and animals, and he had started drawing pictures that he proudly taped on the wall at home. One night, while Rachel was helping him with his homework, he looked up at her and asked, "Mommy, why do people clap for you at work?" Rachel smiled. "Because I help people. Just like how you helped that boy last week find his lunchbox, remember?" He nodded. "So you're like a helper?" "Yes," she said, hugging him. "And so are you." Rachel knew she was teaching Liam more than just reading and writing. She was showing him kindness, patience, and the importance of lifting others up. She was building a better future not just for herself, but for him too. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, Rachel was invited to speak again, this time at a much larger event hosted by a group of organizations across the city. She wasn't nervous, this time. She had grown more confident, more at ease with sharing her truth. As she stood on stage and looked at the hundreds of people before her, she remembered the girl she used to be, lost, tired, unsure. And she realized just how far she had come. "I used to think being alone was a weakness," she began, "but now I know it made me strong. I used to think I had nothing, but now I see I had love, determination, and a heart that refused to give up." People listened closely. Some nodded, some smiled, some wiped away tears. "I didn't rebuild my life overnight," she said. "It took time, kindness, and people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And today, I try to be that person for others." The applause that followed felt like a warm embrace. After the event, Rachel was approached by a well-known publisher who had heard her speech. The woman introduced herself and said, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" Rachel blinked in surprise. "Me? A book?" "Yes," the woman said with a smile. "Your story could help so many more people. We'd love to work with you." Rachel wasn't sure at first, but the idea stayed in her mind. Over the next few weeks, she began writing in her notebook again, the one Mr. Bennett had gifted her. She filled it with memories, lessons, and moments of growth. Before long, those pages turned into chapters, and one day, she signed a deal to publish her first book. It was titled The Road Back to Myself. The book received love and appreciation from readers all around the country. Rachel started receiving letters from people who felt inspired. One woman wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to leave a bad situation. Thank you for reminding me that it's never too late." Rachel kept those letters in a special box near her bed. They reminded her that her pain had not gone to waste. It had become a light for others. As time passed, Rachel and Mr. Bennett grew closer. Their bond had started with kindness, and it deepened with time, patience, and shared respect. One evening, after a small celebration dinner for the book launch, they sat on a bench in the park where Rachel used to take Liam. "I remember the first time we met," Rachel said, smiling. "So do I," Mr. Bennett replied. "You were strong even then. You just didn't know it." There was a quiet moment between them, filled with comfort. "Thank you for believing in me," Rachel said. "I didn't do anything special," he replied gently. "I just saw the light that was already in you." Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Something gentle, something hopeful. Months later, Rachel was invited to open a new community center. It was built to support single parents and struggling families, and the board had decided to name it the Rachel Carter Center for New Beginnings. Rachel stood in front of the building on opening day, holding Liam's hand. A crowd gathered, clapping, as she cut the ribbon. It was a full-circle moment. a moment she never imagined when she was standing outside a wedding in tears, unsure of what would come next. As the sun set that day, Rachel sat by her window once again, just as she used to. But this time the view looked different. She saw a woman who had risen, not because life was easy, but because she never stopped trying. And beside her was Liam, now growing up in a world filled with love, lessons, and hope. Rachel had once been pushed aside, but she found her way back. She had once been silenced, but now her voice echoed far and wide. Her story wasn't about being left behind. It was about rising above. It was about turning pain into purpose. And most of all, it was a story of how one act of kindness from a stranger turned into a lifetime of strength, growth, and beautiful new beginnings.